So, first of all, do you know what conservation is? Yes? Yes, preserving, making the things last for longer. And the definition of a museum actually is an institution that should acquire, conserve, and educate. So this is a crucial activity of the museum. And I wanted to talk about this Bible. Oh gosh, no, I think we should move this guy a little bit from here. Okay. And the process that I went through with conservation of this object. So this is a family Bible that was traveling with a family and was primarily used as a record for family history. So the births, marriages, and deaths were recorded in that. And as an object that is not small, Bibles are usually bulky, it suffered a lot of damage during its life. And one of the most significant was that the block of the book split into pieces, exactly in the place where the section with family history is sitting. So because naturally it was being opened in this section the most often. I have a little bit of illustrations in here. The first thing that Conservator does after getting the object into the lab is examination and photographical documentation of the condition of the object. We need to record what is wrong and try to explain why the damage occurred, and then make decisions about how we are going to fix it, and what qualities the damage affects and what qualities we can preserve through our treatment. So here is a close-up of the crack on the spine, somewhere in this area. We can see that somebody was trying to mend the text block with, I suspect that this was like a Band-Aid, the tape that medical people are using for bandaging, and it left behind this very ugly residue. And also we can see that because of all the traveling, handling, and obviously the book wasn't sitting in a climate-controlled environment, the leather of the cover is really heavily deteriorated, and especially it is visible in here on the spine, where the leather is cracked, very dry, and it basically splits. So the face of the leather is using the uppermost layer. So after I took all the images and can I have my more images? So the conservation is basically coming back into in terms of techniques, and the process is coming back into the original techniques and the processes used to create the object. So I used bookbinding techniques to put the object back together. So where was this? Okay. So here is the book. After I removed the covers, I removed the leather from covers and cleaned all the glue because unfortunately this spine was created without any linings, which usually help to open the book and in the stability of the spine. And I have removed the leather and the old glue, which was not really functioning already. And in course of that also I conserved the pages, the genealogy pages with all the family history, and make all those bands again. I basically strewn some cotton thread to make the bands functioning again. And next, and also in this process, I have added so-called, not endbands, first pages of the book. End leaves, because this is also important, because when the book does have end pieces, end leaves, it's more protected. I mean, it's the jointing here with the cover is stronger, and the text block is more protected from dirty fingers and dust. And the next picture. Do you want to pass this one? Oh, if you, yeah, we can pass those images so you can look at them.
I didn't hear what kind of book this was.
This is a Bible. This is family. Yeah. So it's a big book, and I could tell from that it was really a family history thing, and it wasn't really read very much apart from those genealogical history pages. And there was a lot of actually additional objects in this Bible, like flowers, leaves, some hair, and first tooth. So really a lot of stuff. So next stage was to apply linings to the back of the spine to make it stronger and to allow the book for proper opening, and at the same time to be able to hold all the thickness of those many sections in such a thick volume as Bible is. So I applied linings from linen and also from Japanese paper and from European paper mechanically made to have the surface very smooth, because I also removed the spine, the original leather spine, and applied new leather to the whole cover.
So is this the second set of cotton threads?
Yes, for the bands and the and linings. Okay, this is.
Keep all of the stuff that you take off of there.
Yes, they are kept in the documentation file. Yes, so you can see that it was totally cracked, and for for the construction of such a thick volume, which is physically really heavy, the bands were made only from flax thread, so they were really not meant to last. So this fact suggests that this whole book wasn't the most expensive.
What is the
production.
color that covers on the bottom? What is that supposed to mean?
This is a way to document the color. This is color rendition chart. I'm putting that on photographs before treatment and after treatment, and this helps me in a software when I'm working with a digital file to get the colors right. So I have the comparison, what was the true color before treatment and after treatment.
It's good to measure the color going forward.
Is this around, John?
Yes. Also the now I should speak about it earlier. The paper is very specific in such a big volume as Bible. There is even a kind of paper that is called Bible paper. Yes, because it's very thin and very strong. So nowadays the Bible paper is like a really thin tissue made of cotton, because the cotton in like a Western civilization is the strongest fiber. So, and in this book the paper was really thin, but it contained a lot of straw-like material, which is not very long physically, and the paper is kind of blottery, so it wasn't sized really strongly, and it's kind of, it's very fragile at this stage, after all the history and carrying around in hot and humid climate. This is next stage after I worked on the spine and put the volume together. I attach it to covers, and the original way that this was done was just to glue the ends of those bands to the cover. So I made new bands from this cotton thread, and I laced that through the cover to make the joint stronger. And I have added those strips of flax to also reinforce the joint. Okay, so the covers are actually working properly, and to make sure that they will stay with this book. And also, I don't have photographs of that, but you can see in here I added new leather all over the book and lined original leather, those pieces that were on front and back cover to the top and back.
You put them where?
I lined them on a new leather, so this is separate. So this piece of leather that was originally on the back, I removed that, and because it was in such a terrible condition, it wouldn't be, worthwhile to put it
Part
back.
of the front cover is original, but the spine is not.
Yes, the spine is new. The leather is new in here. Yes. Okay. Do you have any questions about it?
How long did the process take altogether?
Like if you squeeze all my engagement, it's a month of work.
How old is the Bible? Do you know when it was made?
Let me see. I think it's early 19th century.
Yeah. So
It is.
1810, 1820. So
Before, I would say before, because first date recorded in here from the family history is 1804.
okay.
So it's earlier, but yeah, we know from the paper making history that this is time that people are using more and more of paper, and they are looking for sources of alternative alternative fiber sources. So not flax, which is native to. I mean, it's more popular in Europe, and cotton, I guess, in United States. Okay. So we may move to Sir Joshua Reynolds. So this painting is awaiting conservation, actually. So, and part of the conservation treatment is examination before we even touch the object. And usually we are first examining that visually with different lights. And this is an example of UV photography. So this painting was painted by Sir Joshua Reynolds. He's an English painter, and as such he's a very, very prominent painter, and he's also known for collecting art and restoring art. So he was kind of very sure about his technique, and he was trying to imitate old masters. And this is the reason why he was using a lot of different painting media and materials, and was experimenting a lot. Yes?
And when was he working?
Who?
Oh, it's Joshua Reynolds. Of what time period was he working?
It's 18th century. It's an 18th century English painter. So, and he used a lot of resins. And resins are such as substances that they are giving paints and pigments a very nice saturated look, but they are also they have problems with drying and how they are functioning within layers of the painting. And because of that, we can see a lot of cracking in here. The paint is, the paint doesn't work the same all over the entire surface of this painting. And here on those UV images, you can see that basically the darker areas in here, there was some later additions, retouching. So this will be assessed further by conservators, painting conservators, and they will decide, look at the layers that are underneath to decide if we are removing that and to what extent, if any. And also the conservation treatment, I think, will improve very much the color, because that's for sure that we are sure that the varnishes that are, you can see this yellow fluorescence in here, they were added not all over the painting but in patches, as somebody saw it fit to make the painting more uniform. And also we have there was a hole in here.
What was a what?
A hole. So it was patched up together, but yeah, it was it's not pretty. So it's gonna be improved, and I don't know if you can see that the coat is actually blue. So we need to really strive to see the colors and to appreciate this painting, which is, I think, really a good one.
So you're saying that was a literal hole so that you had to patch the...
No, it wasn't me. It was done somewhere in the past. Sorry. And yes, and with this upcoming treatment, we are hoping to even this out, make it more stable and looking better.
So what determines that this painting, say, versus that painting is the one that gets conserved?
Curator. I mean, we are looking at the significance of the painting for the collection, and also at the condition and how often the painting goes on the wall, and how ashamed we are that it doesn't look the best. So that's basically.
They're both on the list of
Yes.
being conserved because they're both very significant paintings in our collection. They were both done in 1762, but you can see they're both very yellow, and that's not what the original painting would have looked like. Part of the reason he's a little higher on the list for us to be conserved is Sir Joshua Reynolds was an extraordinarily influential artist in England. He was a teacher, he painted portraits of the royal family, and because he's a more famous artist, even though these are both very significant for us, this one might take a little bit of, we get this one conserved first, but we also want to conserve it.
Yes.
How many images were prize?
She's our curator, the one who made the decision, actually.
She's speaking from truth and expertise. So.
Yes. So it actually, the pair will go at the same time.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Which is super fantastic. I'm really excited to see the effects.
Do you have an estimate of the amount of time that it will take to do the
treatment for one, we are waiting. How long we are waiting for Rani at this stage? I think 6-7 months, or even longer.
We had papers conservators come here on site to examine these in person because they can only tell so much from photographs. And then they gave us an estimate for the work, and then we scheduled it. So it takes a couple of years to schedule the work, and then they'll generally do the work in person. Either they come here, or we will ship the paintings to them. But
The whole say paper, because it's canvas, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
Painting. Yeah, she said
I
painting.
said painting, sorry. Hard to say.
It's hard to say, but I would estimate that would be 6-7 months. Of work, but we are sending that to an outside studio, and they do have other work scheduled at the same time, so it may take longer than actual work. And also, the specific of the conservation is that you are not like 100% of your time doing one thing, because you need to let stuff to dry, to rest, and to whatever the process is. And with painting conservation, you need to really think about getting stuff dry in between the steps that you are undertaking.
So the first step will be to take the varnish off?
Yes, and probably first to make more the in-depth examination. So probably more UV photography and maybe some sampling to be sure what kind of binders are used in here. So during the process of cleaning, they are not destabilized or dissolved. God forbid. Any questions?
Joanna, I know there's the area where the hole's patched and there's the varnish on there. To what degree would the person conserving this painting just be undoing the damage that conservators in the past had, or people that were attempting to conserve the work in the past?
It depends how much of that can be, because you can kind of see that the dark patching here is much more, it's wider than the damage that is that it's being covered by this patch. So I'm hoping that it's simply heavily overpainted, because after the treatment, after you put the canvas together, in paint and infill the losses, actually first infill the losses with appropriate materials, then it will be in painted, so the color matching. So somebody just took too thick brush in here, because usually you are doing that with a brush that has 3 hairs on it. That's why it takes so long. But if it's done properly, it should be minimal.
It almost looks like it was in a different frame at one point, because there's a definite line across the bottom.
So you have very good eye, and actually this is a super weird thing about this painting, because I think that this is not an original frame, and those lines that you can see in here and at the top, these are actually extension bars. So somebody added 2 pieces of wood and overpainted them with more or less the same color as the painting to fit it into this frame.
Oh, wow.
Yes, which is like, so we will also need a frame for this after it's conserved. We still do, I think I don't think so. I mean, you know, the thing about conservator, you are thinking about a highly ethical person, but this was done, I guess, 50s or maybe even earlier. So back then, the field of conservation was more in a like restoration mode and making things looking good for some purpose. So they weren't always thinking about the results and effects, like long-term effects of what they are doing to art.
So couldn't the frame just be cut down to cover?
I don't particularly like this frame, and I don't think it's a period frame. So we will be probably ordering a frame from a craftsman that will produce something that is in the style of...
Look period piece.
Yeah. Yeah,
So plain, you usually think about the pictures at that time having very ornate frames.
It changes.
Yeah, it changes, yeah. And there's classicism after the Baroque. Yes. Okay, do you have any more questions about this one? No? So I have another object with pictures before treatment, and the object is kind of small. I don't know if you managed to go to the other side of the gallery. There's in the John Ross room, there's a little bitty box, red box from his glasses. So if you can move, I'll follow you. So the primary problem with this little box was that it was basically crushed. And the core of this box is made of very thin like slices of wood, which is visible in here. So the core is made of wood, and then it was kind of covered with paper and stabilized on the edges with thin strips of cardboard. And what's interesting about this one is that the covering paper, it's so-called starch paper. So this is a special technique that you are using wheat starch paste mixed with a pigment, and you apply that to paper, and it's producing this kind of characteristic almost watercolor-like effects. You can kind of see smudges of the trace of the brush. And there was also a little bit of decoration in here, some embossing of ornament, which is a kind of, I can recognize that as a typical stencil for bookbinding. And also this little flower in here. And at this stage they are black, because they were probably embossed with bronze foil, and because the metals are corroding, this is why it's black at this stage.
So the top is before and the bottom is after?
Both of them are before.
Oh.
The after is here. Original after. So what I did in here, I inserted new pieces of board, like museum quality board, into the edges, along those edges, and used those little bitty things to put where they belong on the edges of the box. And then I have put some Japanese paper and painted that with acrylics, which are stable paints, and they have very similar sheen when applied to paper to the original surface. Yes. So, do you have any questions?
So, can you tell us about how you handle an object that small? What kind of equipment do you have to use, and do you have to wear special gloves on your hands, things like that?
It's actually like to wear gloves when I'm handling objects. There are different schools of thought about it, because some people think that secure handling is more important than leaving your grease from your hands behind. But I'm seeing that it works both ways. So I can harm the object, and object can potentially harm me, my skin, because it's an old object and we don't know from what kind of environment it came. And if you happen to be allergic to anything, it's kind of it's safer just to have some kind of barrier. And so personally, I do use cotton gloves with handling objects. And for such a small thing, I actually inserted a little bit of scaffolding made of board inside to keep this little thing from escaping. So and secure that with some paper clips. So it's kind of very simple, but make the work easier. Yes, and the materials that modern conservators actually are using, we are thinking about the long-term stability. So the materials that I use in here are all water reversible and known quality materials that were tested for aging properties and long-term stability.
And how long did this project take you?
This like a week of work, but again, it wasn't that you can sit down and work 40 hours straight. You need to let some things dry, then test some things. I was looking for the best solution to in-paint that, what kind of paper I could use, because I was thinking that I can use actually some European or machine-made paper that I have samples of to infill the losses, but Japanese paper is kind of versatile. I don't know if you know the specific of Japanese paper. This is very long fibers made of usually from kozo fibers. It's very soft and moldable, and we, as people from Western civilization, we are kind of thinking about it as a tissue because it has very translucent quality. And those papers are known to survive long periods of time. So, and because of this, they are very widely used by conservators in almost every.
Will the magnifying glass actually go into that case still, or because of what you've done, it won't go in?
I think it will go in, although it wasn't, I think that this whole thing is missing a cap, because you can insert the, either side of it. So it's missing a piece, because you can see that the glass, magnifying glass, the whole object is much longer than the box. So, yes.
So if anyone has questions about
Yes.
conservation in general, or the rigorous education that she's had and things like that, this is your opportunity.
What do you need?
to ask.
I was wondering, where did you go to school? How long did you go to school? How long have you been doing this? What brought you here?
I went to school in Europe, and it took me, if I did have a shorter project for my diploma, it took 6 years, but it took me 7 to get out of school. And what brought me to Tulsa, this job, basically. So, because there's a different system of educating conservators in Europe. There is this organization that oversees educating in all the European countries, and it's stipulated that conservator restorer needs to be educated in a 5 to 6 year MA program. And in the United States, you can do a BA in something related and then go into a conservation school for 2 years, I believe, and get MA.
So how long have you been here?
3 years.
What's your favorite project that you've done in the museum? Not
What's
just
my favorite?
necessarily in this exhibit, but
My favorite project, before that we did have this poster exhibit. I don't know if you've seen that, so I conserved 18, I believe, of those guys. And so that was kind of work intensive, and it kind of grew, during the work. But it was very satisfying because the effect before and after is really pleasing, and I was able to use a lot of Japanese techniques which I love to use. They are very reliable, and they really give you the effect that you are after. So yes.
How many projects do you have going on at one time? Because obviously you said there's wait times in between. So
Yes,
maybe you
yeah. So at the moment, for example, I'm working on 4 Handson projects and preparing to start another one next week. And yes, because I'm overseeing the conservation, I know that there are like 3 more running simultaneously in the other lab, because we have 2 labs, 1 paper conservation lab, and in the museum there's object and painting conservation lab. So.
When you first get to see the object, like this object, or could you describe
what is the process?
How it is presented to you, and at what point do you get your hands on it? Like, was it in? How was it housed, usually, the object, before you got to it? And then that would also be an indication of the history behind how it was stored, or whatever, which would reflect on what the damage is or anything. Can you say anything about that?
The process. So in a museum setting, conservators are usually getting objects that are, desired by the curator for an exhibit. So, and this kind of narrows our field of work. And when we look at the object, when it's selected for an exhibition, we need to estimate if this is stable enough to withstand the exhibit. So.
When you get it, does it come into you in a box, or is it?
It depends on the.
It
depends on the type, because if we are, it's not my exact specialization, painting, so they are not stored in boxes. They are hanged on racks. But for this came in a little tissue paper, just a little bundle with all the little, things. With it. The Bible came actually to me from a private person directly, and it came in a towel, wrapped in a towel.
Okay.
Yes, so many different ways. For example, I'm working also on a collection of 120 photographs that were donated to us, and they came to me in a jerky box, like beef jerky box. So. There are many different ways. But for example, there's in the photography conservation field, there is this kind of notion that is like all over the place, that photographs are being stored in shoeboxes, which is even people who are working as photo conservators or are scholars in it or scientists in this field, they are storing their photographs in shoeboxes. Yes.
So if they have, precious books or photos or something like that, what would be a stable way for them to preserve their own objects, such as photographs or books? I know it's not a simple answer, but as an alternative.
Yes, of course, there is an alternative, and you have different kinds of shoeboxes. We actually had the discussion about quality of, Gino Rossi or Clark's boxes. Yes, you're right. There's not a simple answer to that, but basically, photographs are sensitive to light and dust and high temperature. And if you do anything to keep them away from those factors, that's good. And if you use materials that are compatible with the chemistry, with the character of the object, that's even better. So, and because there are many photographic techniques in the field of photograph conservation is really moving fast, and it's developing and getting bigger and better, and we know more and more about it. So yes, there's no simple answer, but there's a lot of help online. If you have a photo collection, just Google it.
Go there.
Yeah.
Doesn't acid-free?
Yes. Basically, acid-free box is a good box for anything. I mean, anything apart from cyanotypes and blueprints, because they are actually disappearing when in contact with a buffered board or something that is of higher pH. And so for basic pH range. Okay. Any more questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.